You are now watching The Meech.
Hey guys, and welcome to the first episode of Treasure Trove. This is a new series similar to one I did back in 2021, known as Demeech's Arcade, where I'd go over games in a more casual sort of way, and while the format's going to be similar here, I will include the format from Treasure, where I go over the gameplay, presentation, all that good stuff. And with this series specifically, I've wanted to upload more frequently, and I've wanted to cover more games. And with this series being more laid back and more casual, I'll be able to make far more videos, and especially considering I have more time, considering I graduated college, I'm looking forward to it. There are many games I've wanted to cover, and by all means, if you have a game that you want me to cover, feel free to request it, because I'm always open to requests. So what are we playing today? We are playing New Super Mario Land. This is not a DS game. It's not even a hack of a DS game. This is on the Super Nintendo. And guess what? It's not even a hack of Super Mario World. This is made from the ground up. What this is a remake of Super Mario Land on the Game Boy. I've always said that Super Mario Land is one of the most underrated Mario games, and seeing it get a full-on remake is super cool. Now, to be fair, there is an enhanced version out now, version 1.1 I think, that addresses some things, gives the Super Ball Flower an indicator, fixes some of the music, but nothing too noticeable. I have the original cartridge, so that's why I'm playing that version. I'm playing it on the Retron 3 HD, if you are wondering, which is the current setup that I use to cover Super Nintendo, Genesis, get footage from those. I know that there are probably, just the ways that the purists would want the games to be in, using original hardware, upscaling HDMI mods, stuff like that, but for now I think this is a pretty good alternative, and it runs Super Nintendo and Genesis games very well. So what is this game exactly? Because you might be thinking it's New Super Mario Bros. With Super Mario Land levels, but it's not that simple. You can see that with the enemies, they go for the pre-rendered look of New Super Mario Bros. And the reason why this game came to mind is for two reasons. One, there's been a lot of talk about Super Mario, 2D Mario specifically, most likely due to the movie, and I'm not gonna even bother with any of the rumors or so-called leaks. We make fun of them all the time on the channel, but the idea of a new 2D Mario is an interesting concept because the last one we got that wasn't Maker or Super Mario Run was New Super Mario Bros. U, all the way back in 2012. And another reason why this game came to mind is because I've been playing a lot of Donkey Kong Country recently. I just beat Donkey Kong Country 3, and I'm almost done with 2. And I was thinking, wow, this is incredible. I can't believe they actually were able to pull off these sprites on the Super Nintendo. What if a Mario game had a similar sprite design to Donkey Kong Country with the pre-rendered graphics? And this game specifically would probably be what that Mario game would look like. But this is not a standard Mario game because, like I said, Super Mario Land has all kinds of weird enemies and all kinds of weird locations. But before getting into the presentation, which, yeah, that is one of the highlights of the game, let's talk about the gameplay, because this is one aspect where I feel the remake does better. So if you played Super Mario Land before on the Game Boy, you'll know right away that the physics in that game aren't exactly the best. Mario moves, I would say, at a decent pace, but he just falls like a rock. But here, the physics are more in line with New Super Mario Bros., which makes sense considering that's the presentation they were going for. And it'd be kind of jarring playing this game with the physics of the original Super Mario Land. But I feel like with this game, the physics are completely improved upon. And another aspect where this game shines is just capturing the magic of Super Mario Land in a whole new way. Because even though Sarasa Land was on the Game Boy, which was a handheld that didn't even have color graphics, you could see that Sarasa Land was really going for something different compared to the other Mario games. Even something like Super Mario Bros. 2, which wasn't even initially a Mario game. That even felt more Mario than Super Mario Land. I'm guessing because they still use characters like Birdo and Shy Guy, where not much carried over from Super Mario Land, unfortunately. But seeing the Super Mario Land enemies and locations in just a whole new way, it really goes to showcase just how creative the game is, and I would love for Nintendo to take some inspiration from it for the next 2D Mario game. I was very surprised when they referenced the Super Ball Flower in Super Mario Maker, Super Mario Maker 2 specifically, because it just seems like they neglect the land games for some reason. So it's always cool seeing a reference to the Super Mario Land games, considering that they sold incredibly well. I wouldn't say they're obscure in the sense of people not knowing what they are, but Nintendo just does not bring them up that often, and it's often overshadowed by the console games, which is why I always say the land games are so underrated, especially 2. But in this case, this is by far my favorite way to play Super Mario Land, but there's also another remake out there that brings full color to the Game Boy game along with new sprites. It's called Super Mario Land Deluxe on the Game Boy Color, also made by the creator of the Super Mario Land 2 Deluxe hack, and I'm hoping one day we'll see Super Mario Land 3 Wario Land in full color. That would be very cool to see. So one of the characters that actually did carry over from Super Mario Land is Daisy. In fact, I think Daisy's the only character. We could have had Tatanga maybe, but he only appeared in Super Mario Land 2. And maybe Wario's Woods? It didn't say it was him specifically, but I do feel like the Mario series just needs more villains. I love Bowser, but it's interesting to see actual new villains in a Mario game, especially recently with Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope. They had Cursa as a villain, who is a really cool character. And by the way, if you haven't checked out that game, I highly recommend it. It is one of the best games on the Switch, and one of my favorite Mario games. So definitely check that out. But, you know, like I said, Mario has other villains, usually in the RPGs, but when it comes to the platformers, not really. You had Wart in Super Mario Bros. 2, Tatanga in Super Mario Land, and Wario in Super Mario Land 2. But since Wario, it's just been Bowser. Like, I get that he's the main villain, but it's okay to be a little bit different when it comes to the games and have a new villain. In fact, I would say a highlight of the Mario spin-offs is seeing the new villains, especially when Bowser teams up with you. Come on, guys, if you can think of a time where Bowser doesn't team up with Mario, and it's not incredible, I'd love to know. But this world specifically, I believe this one in the original was based on Bermuda. It looks like New Super Mario Bros. On the DS. I think the theming was a little more distinct for the first world, but either way, still looks really nice. It also carries over the levels from this first Super Mario Land, the ones where you're using the Sky Pop and the Submarine Pop. You'll see that after this level here. But so far, everything is pretty good about the game, and what the hell is that enemy? Yeah, Super Mario Land has some really weird enemy design, and I'm so glad that they kept that in this remake. They could have made it look more Mario, but I'm glad they kept the weirdness of Super Mario Land. So from a gameplay perspective, you know, I will say that new Super Mario Bros. Games obviously feel better to play, and I would say Super Mario World as well. But regardless, I still think that this is a very well-playing game. The physics aren't perfect, but they're definitely good enough. And it's a sacrifice worth taking just to experience the rest of the game and just how cool it is. So going into the presentation, we've definitely talked about it quite a bit, but I gotta say, it is impressive seeing these pre-rendered sprites of these Super Mario Land characters on the Super Nintendo. You get to see all kinds of them that really have not had 3D designs, and like I said, this is super cool. But the soundtrack is also in a similar format to New Super Mario Bros., and it sounds great. I think that New Super Mario Bros. Music on the DS, which is what this is replicating, was really good. I also feel like New Super Mario Bros. Wii had a pretty good soundtrack, but the DS one is far superior. But it turns out, the New Super Mario Bros. Wii soundtrack was so good according to Nintendo, they needed to use it for not 1, but 2 games afterwards. 3 if you count Luigi U. But Luigi U, that's a DLC expansion. And considering it's the concept of a Luigi 2D platformer, I can't be too harsh on it. But I will be harsh on New Super Mario Bros. 2 and U. Actually, I was last year, so maybe I should tone down. We don't want Mario or New Super Mario Bros. 2 and U to become the next Mario Strikers and Switch Sports. And most recently, Pokemon. So presentation, nothing but great things to say about it. I especially love the background here, where it looks like you're underwater, and considering I love the beach, and I've experienced it all the time, definitely is very reminiscent of that, so this looks pretty great right here. And getting into the content of the game, it is a remake of Super Mario Land, which is a notoriously short game. There's only about 12 levels, which by today's standards, it's like nothing. But considering it was on the Game Boy and it was the first handheld Mario game, I understand why it was smaller and they were still figuring out the hardware. Like I always say, sequel is just vastly superior. But it is a remake of that game. I think it would have been cool if they included some new levels, but they really didn't have to. And, you know, just overall I would say, if you want to check this out, I'm not sure if I would purchase a reproduction cartridge, but if you want to play the game on an emulator, or if you have like a flash card, something like that, then I would probably suggest trying it out there, because I definitely recommend playing it. And also with the reproduction cartridges and stuff, sometimes they can be a bit expensive. It's just better to get a flash card. It's just better overall in the terms of value. I just got the Easy Flash for the Game Boy Advance, and it's been great. I played Mario Kart XXL on it. So Stingy Steven, are you happy now? How does it feel seeing the world play Mario Kart XXL after you hogged the game for what seemed like an eternity? That right there was one of the best moments to see in Mario Kart history, seeing the game preserved and seeing Stingy Steven's game available to the world. That was awesome. But overall, with this game, how would I rank it? Well, obviously, it is a remake of Super Mario Land. It has an excellent presentation, and it fixes some of the problems I had with the game. No doubt, this is Treasure. I highly recommend checking out this game if you are interested in Mario platformers. If you want to try out the Super Mario Land games, or if you want something different, this game would definitely do it. And I couldn't recommend it enough. So, the first episode of Treasure Trove, we got ourselves some treasure. Well, anyways, guys, what do you think? And in the next episode, I'll be covering a game from said flashcart being Diddy Kong Pilot, a game that was initially cancelled, but was revived back in 2011 when it mysteriously leaked onto the internet from a Rare employee. I say mysteriously because that was probably the case, but that was an actual leak. In the meantime, though, I'm going to go on Twitter and say that the Metroid Prime trilogy is going to happen, and I will continue to say it for how many years it will take until we get it, and once I get the answer correct, I'm gonna be a reliable Nintendo insider. Well, anyways, guys, as always, thanks for watching, and keep calm and da-don.